So I'm here at this cute Ministry of Ecology, let's say, uh, and they have a little guest house apparently, Ecodome, and I thought it was going to be some like goofy, annoying liberals, but no, they're kind of cute, deplorable, eco populists, I guess, bureaucrats. So once removed perhaps from the worst kind of capitalist shit. Yeah, and we've got proletarian ladies, in the cafe preparing the food. Yeah, it's very, it's like just one step removed practically from, Soviet life. And yeah, they've really, the interior is very nice actually. I should, it's like an air cleaning plant there. It says Ecopausa. It's so cute. And yeah, like everything's very tasteful and nice. And they got blinking lights because you're in the former Soviet Union, and Slavs like a little bling because everything externally is kind of gray and drab. Tends towards that, not whatever the housing projects say. I think part of it was the natural environment historically, but also, and then degenerated worker state. How enthusiastic were the workers actually doing all the labor, who had just been peasants 10 minutes ago. And then, I think there probably was some enthusiasm to an extent, but yeah, that's what people seem to say, or, remember in hindsight at least. But I think, there was a reality to that. It was sort of like America in the 50s, the whatever, the Soviet Union was great, and things were being built, and things were, relatively pretty functional. Yeah, compared to the third world, or compared to, I don't know, the South and American South, which was not industrialized and, racist and backward. So let's see. Yeah, anyway, speaking of America, so there's this whole scandal about, I guess, who would it be? ICE, I guess, Homan. In the Trump administration, arresting, what is it? Arresting, I think Mahmoud Khalil is his name, the Palestinian, activist at Columbia University. I tend to fall on the side that says, well, free speech, Bill of Rights, and since the Palestinians basically are being, if not, I think in the formal definition, it's not as bad as the Jewish genocide. I don't think, living over here in Belarus and Russia, well, Belarus certainly, here, I just got done touring the old Shtetl or Stutz, actually, off the Shtetl of Belarus, and around Kopel, where they're very patriotic and angry and paranoid and nervous, they're surrounded by mass graves. And I'd like to go back there and actually look at all of the mass graves. Basically, all of the Jews were murdered, that stayed behind. Actually, it was a minority of Jews that were murdered that thank Lenin, thanks to the Soviet Union, and frankly Stalin, even, his administration, our people were evacuated before the fucking, gay liberal Nazis showed up from Germany and points west and the Baltics and Ukraine and murdered everyone that didn't leave. So I think it all kind of, comes together, and I can't keep it all straight, but relatively speaking, like around, I think, Kopel and maybe Slutsk, Sleuths was horrible, actually. The even the SS went in directly and just started, you know, like like basically randomly butchering like whole neighborhoods, and it caused an outrage among the more respectable, Nazi genocidaires, and they filed a protest back to Hitler. Simply on the grounds of, well, I think it was two pronged. One was, we are respectable Germans. We only murder people in, an organized, proper way. And, this is out of order. And, fucking lunatics. But the other point was, oh, yeah, because we want to try to induce the native peasant population here to collaborate with us against the Soviets. And, incidentally help us to murder all the Jews. But, events like the Slutsk massacres did not lend itself to, building an alliance with the local population. But that protest never reached Hitler. Anyway, back to the Palestinians. So, what do you have in, especially Gaza? You have the freaks among the Jews. Frankly, most of the people's militias, and I'm happy to say, actually, by the time of the liberation, Nisvij, our town, was only I think it was 33 or no, 25% even, I would guess, Jewish. But 66%, that is 3 times their rate in the population, joined the people's militias. That's, to me, that's beautiful. That shows the kind of advanced revolutionary nature of the Jewish people, even under those circumstances in 1939, helping to liberate this land. And what they did, in terms of the Zionists, the leadership, they packed the head, Rozovsky, I think his name was, they packed him onto a freight car with the Polish occupiers and sent him to Siberia, and he froze to death. And they did the same with Begin and, most of the other Zionist leadership. So, the Zionists historically, in the modern period, and that's all the Zionists, kind of were existing for, same as us, the communists or socialists, whatever, they were a minority of the Jewish people. They were, tolerated by the Polish occupiers, backed by the Western imperialists. It's the right. The imperialists, they're cocksuckers like the Polacks in Warsaw, and the Lithuanian fascists and the Ukrainian fascists. They're all on the right. Which is why I always go armed. I'm never not armed. Even with a little knife. Because, stay strapped or get clapped, as the homies say back in America. And, these are just vicious. Oh, another match on Mambo. These are just vicious criminal elements. And, they need to be wiped out. If the rank and file, as Trotsky said, if you can't acquaint a fascist head with new ideas, acquaint his head with the pavement. And, it's a war, basically. And, that's what the Zionists are doing, right? And that's what their lackeys and, among the Trump administration are doing, is they're doing the bidding of the worst kind of Jews. Jews with money of the West, who have no principles politically. So they're allied with the Ukrainian mafia filth, like Holomoisky and Zelensky. And, they're murdering whole Palestinian families, just like the fucking Nazis and their fascists murdered our people, wiped out, whole neighborhoods, whole families. Not as bad. I kind of joke that it's a nice genocide. Brought to you by formerly, whatever they were, either Zionists or communists or socialists or, basically, and backed by liberal Jews. Like 90% of the Jews support this shit. So, if the Arabs kill you, I guess historically I feel bad, kind of, but you had it coming. You support this shit, I can tell you, all the people buried in mass graves all around me, they didn't support that shit. So, they supported the Soviet Union, and they actually shot and deported people like you. So, anyway, yeah, I'm banned on X, for at least a week because, I make no bones about being violent against murderers and thieves. Politically, I'm against terrorism as a communist, but, you know, ultimately, I think, 1 in 10 in America is just going to have to be shot. And another 1 in 10 is going to have to be gulagged. America's that bad. 1 in 5. Same with Western Europe. They're so corrupted, fucked up. So at the same time, I agree with the populists that the Islamist assholes and migrants, they got to go. 5%, I think I read a comment the other day. Sounds about right. 5% can be assimilated into any society. And other than that, the other, whatever it is, millions in Britain, America, etc., Western Europe, they got to go. I have no love for the Western Europe petty bourgeoisie, but, it's quite clear that, the worst of them are using these barbarian Pakistani filth, etc., Algerian or Syrian filth, the head choppers. They're importing them into Western Europe and using them as a weapon against the working class masses. So, but back to Mahmoud Khalil, whatever his name is. So, that's an interesting question. Like he has a green card, so he's guaranteed the rights of an American citizen up into the point of like running for office or like voting. He can't vote, he can't run for office. But other than that, he's basically considered an American citizen unless he engages in like some sort of felony and terrorism, I suppose. Although, like terrorism, what the fuck? That's like, as Gore Vidal said, it's a war on terrorism is like a war on dandruff. It's meaningless. So, if someone commits, I guess, a violent act against the state, I can see the state repressing that person or deporting that person. But, for me, the question is, what's the evidence that he has advocated for, terrorism or terrorists? And what else? Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Given the parameters of the law, has he violated the law is the question. And, the principles behind that, the American revolutionaries, the CIA itself says the Boston Tea Party was the first act of terrorism in maybe the modern era. So, should Samuel Adams, I think it was, and the Sons of Liberty, should they have been, I don't know, thrown in prison? Do you agree that the British colonial governors should have thrown them in prison then? Or even perhaps executed them? Is that American? I mean, violent protest has a whole history in America. And, you can agree or disagree with it, but if someone is exercising their rights under the Bill of Rights, which the masses forced through against the owners of this country, as far as I can tell, at the time when the Constitution was passed, then, free speech is free speech. And so, yeah, and, if he has, I don't know what, organized the killing of someone or I don't know, like the Sons of Liberty, would attack the house of the governor of Boston, and I think they burned his house down, right? And I think they beat up people, etc. Okay, now maybe, that I'm sure that was illegal back then, but all the same, the English were trying to, curtail the liberties of, what people who became American citizens. And so, Yeah, and that was a progressive struggle, right? So, if where's the evidence that this person arrested has organized and incited the let's say the harassment or beating of Jewish students at Columbia University, um, and if so, who are those students? Are they members of the JDL, for example? I mean, fascists, basically. Were they advocating for the mass murder of Palestinian families? I mean, I wouldn't have a problem, punching someone like that in the face. you know, that's crazy. That some uh, piece of shit collaborator with the murderers, advocate for the murderers. I don't care if he gets punched in the face. I'm happy to see someone like get punched in the face. He's a traitor to everyone here buried in mass graves, because they were internationalists, and they were supporting a country that, helped out the Palestinians in the end, that sent aid to the Palestinians, that sent aid to anti-imperialist struggles. This is the Soviet Union, and that's what our people, the Jews, supported. So if you're a Jew, supporting the mass murder of the native population of the Middle East in this area of Palestine, then I don't have any sympathy. I'm fine with Palestinians beating you or even killing you. If they can't talk sense to you, I mean, like Trotsky said, acquaint your head with the pavement. You're an enemy of humanity. I'm not a nationalist. I'm an internationalist. So, and that was the best of the Jewish tradition, was basically, that, Judaism as a nation or culture or whatever evolved from disputation and, kind of rationality, ordering of things, ordering of life, urban life, and ultimately, leapt into secular, rationality. That is, the heretic from the Netherlands, not Mahmoud, Maimonides, Spinoza, and then people like Isaac Deutscher, and all sorts of people. The mother of the guy who became Betar was a right communist in our family's town. That was the revolution, first the evolution, then the revolution, the break, and then the leap forward. And then, all of you, however, who's supporting a state that's murdering whole families, to turn, their where they've been forced to live in Gaza, off of their own villages, fleeing from there in 48, but to murder them and to steal that land and to try to turn it into some sort of, fucked up playground for the rich. If you don't think and you continue down that road, I don't care if you get killed. You are just like Rozovsky and Nietzsche's. You deserve to be deported to Siberia by, other Jews or Palestinians in this case. So, I don't have any sympathy for Zionists. So, what? Maybe some sympathy for, where they came from in terms of who their grandparents were, or who they might have become. But if you turn into a monster and let alone if you go over there and you join the IDF and you go, or you fund Israel, or you support them, through, speaking out, pressure on, political representatives, etc. If you support what Israel does, that's just, it's a freak show. And you deserve what you get. So, anyway, so generally speaking, I think, I don't have sympathy for, say, illegal Mexicans coming to scab, or Arab gas station owners, or Yemenis who are against Ansarallah and the struggle, the heroic struggle that Ansarallah is carrying out in Yemen against the Zionists. But then attacking my cousin, who lives in the Detroit area, who's, basically Métis, part American Indian. You know, you get your ass beat, by a Métis, or, just a person whose people have been here for 100, 200, well, let's say 150, 200 years, ideally. That's fine. I don't like most Arab immigrants. They're just fucking right-wing scum, anti-communist scum, just like the Asian Americans. They're fucking filth. If they get shot or deported, wonderful. I don't think Korea or Vietnam should have to suffer taking those people back. So, preferably I'd like to see you shot and buried, somewhere, just like the Polish occupiers. So, but what else? So, but in terms of this instance, the shit libs are generally correct. I hate shit libs also, because they hate me. I'm the white penis devil. I worked a real job, driving a truck, and they fucking they hate us. They're just the symbolic analyst cunts that hate. They hate white people. They hate America. They hate workers. So and I'm basically what? I'm an internationalist. I'm against white nationalism, but you shit libs, you're like, for the last 50 years, you're even worse than the white nationalists, really. So you've probably, I'm sure you've killed far more people than any white nationalist has. So anyway, but in this limited instance of the Palestinian struggle, I support Mahmoud Khalil, and if I have his name right, and he should be protected because he has a green card, and if all of his whatever, if all of the niceties are in order, and I don't think the government should be sniffing around either to try to fish and try to find an excuse to deport him. If a million Jose's have their paperwork less in order, and this guy made one error or even lie on his application, so what? Basically now, you look at Jewish history, how many Jews among our people, or Belaruskis even, Shalgus, for example, who assassinated McKinley, President McKinley, who was apparently a piece of shit imperialist, and collaborator with the capitalists here. How many Jews didn't have their papers in order, or were even terrorists or anarchists or communists? Many, many, many. Most of them, actually. So were communists, especially after 1919. So, we'll let the guy stay in the country, and, any, honest, sincere, Arab citizen, within limits, not Arab citizen, Palestinian, anyone who's an actual refugee. I'm in favor of letting them stay for 10 years, let's say, and then, really, we should be heavily arming the Palestinians and sending them back to kill Zionists and secure their land, like we should have done with the Irish in 1857, instead of letting them run, the cities into the ground like Joe Biden, and the country like Joe Biden did. So, anyway, so I'm against, the persecution of Mr. Khalil, and against the imperialist system, and, for Palestinian self-determination.